So we had three prompts this time. One was to choose warm and cool colors, and we had either purple or green to do that with. The next one was to do the colors in seasons. And um, so the seasons really were up to you. And in the book, she talked about winter being gray and white and black and, kind of dreary, wintry outside colors. But I didn't choose that because that's not what I think of it as winter. I think of the colors that are inside, like Christmas trees and decorations and that kind of thing. So that was very individual. Then the last one was to explore three emotions, which is really hard because, I didn't want to just go with sad. So I picked melancholy as one of the emotions, a little bit different from just sad. So anyway, everything is based on what you choose. And so remember that there's not a wrong answer. Um, the other thing I wanted to say, um, oh, somebody somebody said that the color swatches, there's 150 color swatches in the book, and they couldn't find their favorite color in there. Well, I have two ideas for that. If you can't find your favorite color, get a crayon box or colored pencils and make your favorite color, you know, or find a piece of fabric that is your favorite color and go with that as a color swatch. When it's saying, what's your favorite color, pick one of your fabrics that you like, that color. And if it doesn't match any of her swatches, then that's a new swatch for you. One of the things I did find was that I've always thought one of my favorite colors is fuchsia, and she didn't have a fuchsia color swatch. But when I started looking at fabric that I thought of as fuchsia, it matched her color swatch that she calls magenta. So it might just be that the name that she's calling it is different from the name you call it. So anyway, so make your own color swatch. If you don't find your favorite colors in the swatches or the ones that you want to use, make them. I've got a whole bunch of colored pencils, colored markers, and I'm playing with that kind of stuff too. All right, so anybody want to show, or do you want me to show mine and then we'll go around and everybody show theirs? Hey, Heather, we're glad you've joined us. Um, let me see. Ugh. I put mine. Okay, first of all, the block suggested was bear's claw, and I didn't care for that because I don't like making triangles. So I made uh I made 9 patches. Okay, so here you see this is my warm purple, and I did it differently from Nancy. Nancy's is right for Nancy. Mine is right for Janice. Okay, this is my light, and this is my transition, and this dark one is that's my darkest one, and in the warm purple. These are my cool purples. That's my light, my transition, and my dark one. Um, so that's how I did that. In the in here, this is the season. And I told you I didn't like her ideas for winter were like grays and blacks and browns. I thought of jewel colors, and I put white and a yellow. Uh, this is really doesn't show up very well, but this is a like a royal blue, and this is kind of a fuchsia. So I had 4 colors in here. The white is a neutral, then the yellow, the royal blue, and a fuchsia. And this is not a good choice. I see now because it's not very saturated. It's got a lot of white in it. So it doesn't show up very well. So that's one thing I learned. Okay, this is my, oh, now my things are okay. This block is my emotion block, and I chose the emotion jubilant. I didn't want to really say joyful, but something like super happy. So I've got a yellow. This is magenta. Actually, this is chartreuse. Magenta. This is a blue and an orange. And it's weird looking, I know. For a quilt, this is not a good choice in a 9 patch, but anyway, that's what I did. So, some of the things I wrote in my book, one of the things I was having trouble with was between shades and different colors. Like, is this a different shade of navy or is this a different color from navy? That I was having a little difficulty with that. So anyway, those are my first three um, challenges or experiments. Anybody else want to share theirs? Nancy, can we see yours again? Because if you have them there,
Well,
they would.
yeah, I've got them. I I think I was confused on what I was doing, but because I did the purple and the green, um, and as I said at the meeting, this was my purple. I don't know
Uh-huh.
if I can
Yeah,
get
yeah.
that where you can see it, but I was trying to find the transition block, and this was actually the transition block, but when I sewed it in there, the roses on that on the fabric are red, and they actually show up more red on the computer than they do when
Uh-huh.
you're sitting here
Yeah.
with it in your hand looking at it. So
Yeah.
it's a weird, the fabric obviously is the color thing is off a little bit, but um I worked through all the color families on that and I ended up the green showed the transition block clearly
Mm-hmm.
from the cool and the all of that stuff. And then the summer one was even brighter.
Uh-huh.
So I don't, the way we're showing up on I can't tell whether you're seeing the blocks or not.
Yeah. I
Uh,
can see most. I put you on speaker view so I could see more of your block that way.
Oh,
Um,
that'll work.
Yeah, so that works better if you put it on speaker view.
Yeah.
So there that's the thing about it is your interpretation of it was fine because you explored a different thing than a little different from what I explored, but it was still an interesting exploration to me.
Okay.
And you learned some things about the colors um, of your fabric too, don't you think?
Yeah. And then the next one that I did was I did the seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I did blocks for the seasons and I never got to the last one, the mood one. I got to it and I read it and I read a whole bunch of notes on it, but I didn't make any squares for it
Okay.
because I was in the wrong mood.
Well,
I
sometimes
could,
that's true too. That's a learning thing too.
but
Um,
on the seasons, I can't even at this point I can hardly tell what my seasons were. Because I went through and I did the swatches first, and I pulled all the swatches and picked the what was it, light to dark? I forget.
it just said focus on a season and one color at a time, or choose multiple colors as long as all the fabrics match the target season.
Right, and that's what I did the target seasons by the swatches first.
Uh-huh.
Then I went to my fabric stash to try to find fabrics that matched them. And I did fairly well on
Mm.
everything except I had a little trouble with um I guess that was I can't tell now what was what. This was spring
Uh-huh.
and this was this was summer
Yeah.
because it was And that's, see, and I did this again. I did the same thing again as I talked about in the meeting. In my head, I'm thinking purple is warm. And
Uh-huh.
I just, purple is one of my favorite colors. So it makes me feel good. It makes me warm. And she classes it as a cool color. So every time I'm in the book, I'm going, okay, it's cool. Okay. But then it comes out when I'm working on it as a warm color.
But I'm thinking that I thought she was saying that it was a transition color. It was in between. It could go warm. It could go
It
either
can
way. It
go
could
either
go either
way.
way. Yeah,
Right.
warm or
Yeah.
cool. So
So,
depending
and
on, yeah.
that's where I end up with it. And then my winter block did have purple in it again,
Uh-huh.
but it was dark purple.
Yeah.
And then the
Yeah.
blue, the cooler transition color brings out the magenta.
Okay. Interesting. Well, what this is what I did. I took pictures of my swatches when I put them in the book. The what and then I actually took my book. I don't know if you can see that, but I wrote the names of them in there because
Yeah,
I knew I was going to need to start mixing them again in another experiment. So I've written all in my book.
I
Okay.
did that too, and I put sticky notes in there.
Okay.
I've got pink sticky notes all over my book. So
All right. What Vesta, what about you? Can you show us what you did?
All right. The only one I actually did the swatches on was the emotions because I was looking at those colors going, I can't, I don't know. They just didn't seem like different values or something. They didn't work well for me. But I picked green for the cool and warm, and I
Mm-hmm.
used like that one's my cool one
Uh-huh.
for tea. And I did the bear paw, so I only get to use two colors or
Yeah.
two materials, and that was my warm one.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah.
then I picked winter, which I went with snowflake fabric and something that looked like snow, and blue is winter.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And then I went stupid and said happy.
Okay. No, no, that's
Instead of being creative, I did happy.
yeah. Well, that looks happy.
Well, I
Yeah.
looked at a thing I had on my table and I was like, yellow and blue, that makes me feel good. So I'm going to do yellow and blue.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds good. Well, Karen, what about you? Okay, you had to unmute. There
I
we go.
still struggle trying to remember, but the top two. So
Uh-huh.
this is my green versus purple. This is what I
Yeah.
for cool, and I was finding some limes to go in it. Oh, okay. We'll just do this one. I've got
Okay.
their string, so this is not sticking, I guess. Anyway, so um anyway, this is what I found for cool. But I went mostly it's lime. I got a lot of lime green in it. This had a little bit of goldy, and I don't
Yeah.
know if that counts as a cool or not. Did I do it, or is that my hot?
I think that's your hot
Oh, okay.
because
See, I
yeah,
can't keep track of
yeah.
when you're adding
Go
yellow to green makes
yeah.
it warmer.
Right, right. Yes. So your other
So
one was your cool one, your one that was more kind of aqua green
okay,
that fell off. I think that's
yeah,
what I would
that
have.
my warmer one or my cool one is actually more green. Yeah, aqua. So this is the cooler. I still am getting them confused. I have to go back to the book and read that paragraph. So this is versus
Yeah. Yep.
one.
Yeah. If you go back to the if you did the color circle with us or you
Mhm.
have that color circle that I did as a handout, you see the side of the color wheel that's cool and the warm. You'll see that red and yellow are on the warm side and blue and purple are on the cool side. But like she said, like we've already talked about, purple can be warm or cool purple and green too. That looks good to
Thank
me.
you. That's that one. Oh, I dropped my Oh, here it is. Upside. I
They're
did 'em-
hiding from you.
I've been doing a lot of string, so that just came was easier. And this one has they're all different colors, but this is my winter.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
my winter.
And I think that that looks winter to me. If you were gonna do a winter quilt with the blacks and
Well,
yeah.
actually, there's no black in it. That's a
Oh,
navy blue and
oh,
green.
okay. So on the
Um,
on our screens, on my screen, it looks
yeah,
pretty black,
so
but
that's
it's
navy
very
blue and
dark.
green. These
Yeah.
are like a salmon. This
Uh-huh.
darker one.
Yeah.
Um, this has greens and blues in it.
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
that was still a cool wintry
Yeah.
color.
But if you were looking at the landscape, you would say, I see those outside in the winter. Yes.
And then this one I put in and I looked and it's a little got some lime in it. So I don't know. I think.
Yeah, well, but it's what you think of as a winter thing. If you were going to make something to
Oh,
designate winter, you were working on the emotions
yeah.
today, right?
Yeah, I did my emotion. And yesterday I was so exhausted. I'm still just tired from doing stuff. And so I kind of went on that theme. And my husband looked, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And he looked up an emotional color wheel. And they're not all the same.
Uh-huh.
Some
No.
people use different colors for the different emotions.
Yeah.
So this is my tiredness
Okay.
thing. So, and
Yeah.
it's got deep blue, deep purples in it, a little bit of black and tans.
Yeah.
Oh,
Is that a brown or is that a
which one?
the third front the up
That's
that
brown.
one that yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
brown floral.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see tiredness being that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's me.
Okay.
And I started this on after Nancy. I guess it was Wednesday or Thursday.
Okay.
Started that because she got me energized. I was like, okay,
That's
because I
great.
was not really in the mode to read. I sat down and read for a little while. You know,
Yeah.
got to read it, and then I had to keep going back because I couldn't remember.
Well, that's what I was saying on Tuesday night, that I probably wouldn't not have dug into this by myself because it is kind of a lot of reading, but I sort of read a little and then stop and make some notes and do some other stuff. Carmen, I don't know if you have some blocks you want to share. Is that
Yeah,
uh, okay?
I was doing strings too because I had a whole lot of strings. So
Yeah, good.
first I did a warm and a cool green.
Uh-huh.
Like I
Yeah.
say, when it's warm, it goes toward the yellow. When it goes toward the blue, it's cool.
Yeah. That's what I
And
surmise.
and then I picked winter, and they're kind of almost pastel colors.
Hmm.
This is kind of a gold. It looks more brown, and then a gray and a green. And I think because it had looked like snowflake print on it. And this one just made me think of light colors and then the blue sky. So that winter
Okay.
just made me think of cold and light colors, not the
Right.
brilliant stuff of summer.
Yeah.
And then with the emotions, I kind of like my prints are wild because I felt like we've had a bunch of chaos the last 2 weeks. And this was my emotion.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Anybody else got something they want to say about those three experiments? Um, so
I'd be
I want,
glad to talk
yes,
about mine.
Mary. I didn't see your name because it's not on my screen, but
So if you look at the one that's the patchwork, I did bear claw. And the reason I did that was because I've not done half square triangles. So it's my learning experience. And I did the cold and the warm in 2 colors. So that one is green and the cool is on the left and the warm is on the right. Then I did red in the same order, and the one that's on the right, that's my warm red. I didn't have a lot of choices for the toes or the claws in my stash here. And I learned a lesson not to do something with that much white background because it just kind of disappears. Then the one on the left-hand corner is my winter. And the blue is because to me, that's the color when you have packed snow and the sun shines through it from the back, it turns kind of an aqua blue. Like if you look at glaciers, that kind of blue-green that it turns. And then the toes turned out to be snowflakes. But the reason I chose that one was because I grew up in Minnesota, and that to me was like what the slush is in the spring. And it feels like it's spring down here to me. So I kind of threw that in there. And then the one on the right is my emotion one. And I don't know if it turns up really well, but all those dots in the black are all different kinds of colors. There's and blues and greens and just chaos. That was my chaos part. I forget who else did chaos, but then the toes are from a fabric that is all math equations. And that was me trying to figure out what was going on. The one other thing I found that I posted on that post was a tool. And being that I'm just learning, I was using just what I had. And I visited a friend and she had this block lock. And the stripe down the middle is set so that you put it on the seam when you're trimming them, the 2.5 inches that we did. And once I got that little tool, it really made everything a whole lot easier to cut. And so I just thought I'd throw that in if you don't know about that one. Then I have my emotion feelings swatches that I did. The middle one is my happy place. And then the dark purple ones, like Nancy, I really like purple. And when I'm in my most zen, happy place, that's kind of the color I feel about that. And then the other interesting thing, the one that's the color swatches that we did about the seasons. I couldn't find all of the colors that I wanted. So I got as close as I could and did that. And I found it was really pretty interesting to me that the spring ones were all the bright, vibrant, happy things. The autumn ones were all kind of muted with a brown undertone. And the winters were tending towards the pastels, which I guess is the influence of white snow kind of affecting the colors I feel about winter. So that's it.
Thank you for all those. I think because you had a different history with the seasons, living in a different place, because I'm a Southern girl. So you're
Yeah, we even lived in Canada for a while,
Yeah,
so all the
so-
colors are different.
yeah. So I'm, I guess really, if I've talked about outside in winter, it's so many browns to me because there's not that much snow here. Anybody else? I wanted to, we haven't gone very long, but for the recording, remember we're recording this, and I'm going to turn off the recording in a few minutes because our space for saving recordings is limited, and I don't want to fill it up. We can still talk, but I do want to go over the the next part, the next challenges, the next section in the book. If you have your book, we're kind of going by the chapters in a way. The next one is on color theory. So we're going to be looking at the color wheel. And I know that I did a very, very short overview of the color wheel. And so you're going to see it more in depth. There's 5 different experiments, but do the ones you can. And if you don't get them all done, I want to show you one thing that she talks about doing. On page 46, no, 49, my glasses need changing. She talks about a patchwork challenge. And here, when she does the bear paws, she actually does 2 colors here, 2 colors here, and a different color in the center. So she uses actually 3 colors in her bear paws so that she can get a color wheel. And if you look at this, it's going from pink, magenta, and red to yellow, green, orange, and yellow, then mint, green, and blue-green, and then sky blue, and purple. So if you're not doing bear paws and you don't want to do bear paws, another idea I think would work pretty well is this color wheel that she did. If you have like Dresden plate, a pattern for a Dresden plate, you could do that and do a color wheel like that. Or you could do whatever block you're doing and just arrange it in a color wheel kind of way. She talks about different ways to do a color wheel. But challenge number 4 is analogous, complementary, or other color schemes. So you're going to do one of those. You don't feel like you have to do every one, especially if your time is limited. I'm working on 2 other projects, so I'm not spending all that much time making these blocks. Experiment 5 is using rainbow blends, kind of the color wheel idea. And experiment 6 is doing different colors, classic colors, pastel colors, dusty colors, and jewel colors. We've already talked about seasons, we've talked about emotions, and now we're going to go with kind of quilting classics, quilting pastels, dusty, and jewel. So that would be the 6th experiment. And I actually haven't gotten into the 7th and the 8th. But as you go along, if there's any kind of, I can't figure this out, you can reach out to us on Facebook and talk about it, and see what other people are thinking. I'm going to write in my book all the things that I figure out. But anyway, I'm enjoying working on this, and I'm glad that you're able to join us.